a lot of what I try to do in my own work is make community engaged and kind of socially responsive prompts, if you will, for kind of different sorts of engagement. And sometimes that is like a kind of large text piece in public space, and other times it's things that are more ephemeral, or things that kind of bring people together for short periods of time. And I think both of those are actually really compelling examples of public art and placemaking, where you're bringing together creativity and you're bringing together people to think about the future of the community, for example. Placemaking is really like a combination of a lot of different practices. You have things like urban planning, you have things like communities identifying what's really meaningful to them, you have architecture, you have infrastructure. All of these things come together in a thoughtful way, and that's when it's called placemaking. That's when we're really actively making a thoughtful gesture about how a space should function, how it should feel, and what it should do really for the community and for kind of external visitors. I grew up in a small town myself, so I happen to, I guess, have some firsthand experience about how some of these ideas around public art and placemaking can translate or scale from maybe a big city into a smaller rural community. And I think part of that is about taking the talent that's already here, that's already happening, and finding ways to highlight that, to bring them to the surface, to give them opportunities that they may not otherwise have. And also to think about, like, placemaking doesn't have to mean like you're looking at like a district in a big city. I think it means it has a lot of potential to mean something different when it's scaled down to a community of like 80,000 or 100,000. It means that that's resonating for, in some ways, a lot more people than it does in a big city, because you get kind of carved up into little districts and neighborhoods. And here, I think an effort towards placemaking or public art can actually draw the entire community together. Some of those key takeaways, or the things that I'm hoping people will walk away with and remember, are that there's a difference between public art that's made for a place and public art that's made of a place. And I think that key distinction is really about thinking about the role that the community has in not just making a decision about the work, but actually feeding into the artwork itself. So the examples I'll be showing, I think, from my own kind of a back catalog of works, and also of a lot of other artists that I really respect, it's about exploring the role that community and engagement can play in the creation of public art and really in placemaking. I think people can be empowered to take action on these kinds of ideas in this community through opening up new discussion points, right? I mean, what we're doing tonight and throughout this entire series is part of that. But I also think that there's some kind of like quick start things that could be done. And part of that is looking at sort of low stakes or kind of easy win kind of opportunities. And there are a lot of examples already in the downtown core of like how art is actually coming to the surface. Looking for more ways for that to happen, to engage emerging artists, to engage the talent that's already in this community, I think are all really, great ways to get that moving. I think enhancing small towns and small communities for the future is all about looking for the opportunities to bring small, gestural, temporal, creative moments into public and civic life. I think it sparks imaginations, and it certainly goes a long way to kind of like opening up new opportunities. And again, things that we don't need to commit to for 10, 20, 30 years. These are rhythms of like creativity in public life. The challenges that this community is facing are definitely significant, they're complex, and they're going to be long-term things that need to be addressed. But the role that art can play in that is to help establish new kinds of conversations, new perspectives on these problems, and hopefully new kinds of solutions. If we always rely on the same kinds of modes of thinking and techniques that we've relied on for the last 100 years, we're not necessarily equipping ourselves for the kinds of challenges that come in the future. And artists, designers, creative minds are going to be really important in helping to address some of these things.